Hello everyone, I am doing a sound check real quick and then we will get right on to our topic. Da-da. La da da da. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay. It'd help if I unmuted that site. Okay. So. Alright. Now I need to mute it again so I don't get distracted. Okay, there we go. Haha. Quick few words before we start. Have any questions, please just ask them in the chat. I have all of the chats up, so I should be able to pop in and see and answer your questions if anyone has any. I've just got to do something real quick. There's that, and it is getting shared to Live and Clinton. And Clinton is there we go. Alright. So tonight's topic. Screen share settings. Sure. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Sensitivity readers, the who and the why. This is our CPL Writing Club meeting for December of 2025. To start off with, we're going to ask the important question of it would help if you know this one wasn't. There we go. Sorry. There we go. I might have to do some adjusting on the fly, but that should work. What is a sensitivity reader / editor? It is someone hired to look for offensive content, stereotypes, and bias within a literary work and to create a report for an author or publisher with suggested changes. You might hear these people listed underneath different titles, such as a sensitivity editor or a diversity reader or a diversity editor. They are roughly all the same thing, and they are not one size fits all. I may use those words interchangeably in here. They serve the same rules for this talk's purposes. All right, why are they important? Sensitivity readers help make sure that you are properly representing a culture, people, race, ability, religion, etc., without using harmful stereotypes or being degrading. For example, you're writing an autistic character, but you aren't autistic yourself, and you may end up using traits that are considered a harmful stereotype by the autistic community. A sensitivity reader that specializes in the depiction of autistic characters can help a writer avoid things like this. And that's something that's going to come up a lot with diversity or sensitivity readers, is that they specialize. So you aren't going to necessarily get like, oh, your depiction of XYZ race of people is not right, or you're using these harmful stereotypes from an autism reader. Versus let's say you have a Muslim character, so you asked someone who is Muslim to read over it to make sure you didn't do something that a Muslim would never do. Here are some examples for things that could have used a sensitivity reader, maybe had a sensitivity reader and they were ignored. It's another thing that comes up. Sensitivity readers are not changing your work. They are just basically handing you a list at the end that is like, here's some things that you may want to change. And then it's up to you, the writer, if you're going to change that or not. So the two examples I got are American Heart by Laura Moriarty. It's a YA novel and is often accused of using a white savior narrative by filtering a Muslim refugee's experiences through the lens of a white narrator, or a non-Muslim narrator. The controversy got worse after Kirkus Reviews gave it a starred review, which, if you don't know, Kirkus is one of the big reviews. We get a Kirkus magazine quarterly here at the library for the people who do our ordering. They will look through, and if it has a starred review, it's more likely to get purchased. Sometimes. Generally they're given a bigger, like, spotlight on them. After the outcry, Kirkus removed the stars, which then caused an accusation of censorship by Kirkus. It is a whole mess. You'll find that comes up a lot in these as well. With something that was very simple going on to not being simple anymore. So the other one is American Dirt by Janine Cummins. I remember when this one came out in 2020, a lot of the controversy surrounding it is that she is writing from a Mexican point of view. No. Yeah. Mexican culture, a Mexican point of view, when she is not Mexican herself, or Mexican descent. She's Puerto Rican, Lebanese, I do believe. And there was a lot of people in the Mexican community saying she's using harmful stereotypes. I saw one review comparing it to a white woman clutching her pearls about things. There was, from what I looked up, there was some vetting by Muslim sensitivity reader for other issues, but there wasn't really one done by Mexican people who were experiencing Mexican culture. So those are just two of the examples. If anyone can think of another one that had something similar, there's a lot. Like a lot of controversies like this, unfortunately. So now I'm going to go over some of the downsides to a sensitivity reader. Sorry, I have the sneezes. One, you start running into potential accusations of censorship. People saying that if you don't know what you're writing, if you don't have experience in what you're writing about, don't write it. Don't even take the risk. That cuts down on your experimentations. I have seen some people saying, well, if you're, there's no reason to even write XYZ type of character if you're not XYZ, those kind of things. Also, if you only use one sensitivity reader, you can get to a very narrow perspective because not everyone's views on a certain topic are going to be the same. It is much better to have multiple people doing this. It's especially, I find it especially good in the proofreading stage. If you have people from a lot of different backgrounds reading something, you're inevitably going to get someone who is going to function as a sensitivity reader. In fact, you'll probably get multiple someones. So, for instance, if you're going to write a book with a main character who is, I, I don't know, Native American, you're going to want to have Native Americans in your proofreading group, especially if they are from the tribe that you were saying this Native American is from. Native American character is from. They can tell you, oh, you messed up here. No one would do that, or things like that. There's also the potential loss of nuance. There's some more things. There's the cost. Sometimes it can rack up costs on getting a proofreader. You can get a bad sensitivity reader who's just either lets things go through that they don't consider. This is comes back to the using only one sensitivity reader can lead to a narrow perspective. If you're only using one because that's all you can afford, you're going to only get the opinions of one person out of a group of hundreds of thousands. So you're going to need to hire more people because of, hang on. Sorry, I just had a thing pop up. There we go. There we go. So, and another thing that's going to happen is you're going to find stuff changes. Stuff that would go perfectly fine today, maybe in 20 years, is going to be considered a slur. So some people say it's not even worth it to get sensitivity readers because things can change so fast that by the time you're done writing, whatever characterization, language you're using might be considered offensive then, so then you'd have to rewrite the whole thing, so why even bother? Alright, okay. How to do it right, or how to get the right sensitivity reader for you. 1. Have a wide pool of beta readers. This is where being part of writing groups online or in person can help, because then you're going to have a lot of opinions all at once. Insist on having your writing going through multiple sensitivity readers if an editor or agent demands it. That is becoming something that is a bit more standard in the industry, or so I found. A lot of publishers, editors are wanting books to go through sensitivity readers. If you do manage to get signed on to get a book published through one of the traditional publishers and they just want to go through one sensitivity reader, insist that it goes through multiple. Bring up the one opinion for 100,000 people thing. You're also going to want to have a definite idea of what you want from a sensitivity reader. Are you looking to make sure that you're not using harmful language? Are your characters an accurate representation of their situation? Are they reacting like a person of this group would in this kind of situation? Is the dialogue realistic? Are there some things that for example, if you're writing an Italian American character, or even an Italian character, from my understanding, bear in mind, from my understanding of Italian culture, you aren't going to take the Lord's the you aren't going to hear them say curse words involving a higher deity of the Christian religion very often. Yes, that was a wordy way of putting it, but I do not want to get in trouble on here for cursing. um, so yes, that is something. Sorry, I'm having to adjust every slide on here. It's annoying. Um, and then have the idea of what you want and define it more specifically. Are you looking for cultural accuracy? Does the dialogue sound authentic? If you are writing someone from the South, like the southern United States or the deep South, they are going to have a completely different cadence of vocabulary than someone from, say, New York. It is completely different. They will use different idioms and phrases than someone from, say, New York or Minnesota. Minnesota, you're going to get a lot of opes and things like that, at least from my experience. I have family that lived up in Minnesota, and when we would go and visit them, even if you accidentally brush them aside, you could always get an ope. That might just be something from the area that my cousin was in. That's another example of why you have to have a wide view of reading it, of sensitivity readers. All right, next slide. Hiring a sensitivity reader. How do we go about this? All right, is this all fitting on there now? Okay. 1. Identify your specific needs. Know your audience, what communities you're writing about, what you specifically want to get out of this. You may have a sensitivity reader for, say, if you're writing a character from the Deep South, and you want a sensitivity reader or multiple sensitivity readers just for the dialogue. You can do that. How to find your potential sensitivity readers. There are specialized directories where you can hire people out of. I listed a few here. Social media, if you search that, you can search hashtags for what you're specifically looking for on things like Twitter, X. It's going to be Twitter until the day I die. Sorry, Elon Musk. Blue Sky, Tumblr. I know people will laugh at me when I say Tumblr, but there are writing communities on there that are very thorough. Some of them scare me. Community connections. Are you part of a writing community? Here online, there's Reddit. Oh, Reddit is really good for writing connections. Mind you, anytime you use social media, you're going to need to like separate the wheat from the chaff. There's also sorry, my voice is dry. It's very dry with the heat going on today. Freelance platforms where you can hire people. Fiverr, Upwork, which I don't recommend because they do. I've read some things recently about some of the stuff that they've done, and they're not. Based on some of the things I've heard, you might have issues working through them. And then there are professional organizations. Then the people you find for potential sensitivity readers, then you're going to vet them. Be upfront about the themes of your book. You do not want something to come out of left field and sucker punch them. Warn them ahead of time of, oh, there's going to be XYZ in here, like sexual assault, child abuse, what's some other animal abuse, the dog dies, those kind of things. Let them know about those up front. Also be upfront about the themes. Oh, this is about overcoming diversity, overcoming adversity, or this is a story about finding your place in the world, or stuff like that. Then you'll want to ask them what their process is for sensitivity reading if you're hiring them specifically as a sensitivity reader. You are going to want them to give you a list by the end of it of things that they've noticed, usually with page numbers ascribed to it as well. So, like, chapter 1, page 3, character uses these words, which a character from XYZ culture would not use this phrase, they use this instead. Or used a term, chapter 6, page 1, paragraph 3, used a term that is considered very bad in XYZ culture, or XYZ, or is considered very bad by XYZ people, or used an organization name that would be considered problematic on XYZ page. You want them to tell you specifics, specifically, especially where on the pages in your work that they're finding these issues. Then, before you even send them the things, discuss pay and turnaround time. Some of these people can get a turnaround time for a 50,000 word novel in like several days. Personally, I would go, how well are you reading that? In my head. But that's just me personally. Also, you'll want to look up the reviews that they have, see if anyone else has had any trouble with them, and then you also discuss what their pay rate is. Usually, you're going to pay them by the word. Sometimes, like on Fiverr, for instance, they'll have like the first 10,000 words are $25, or the first 10,000 words are $50, and they'll tell you exactly what you're getting from them. That's useful because you know exactly what you're paying for up front. While they are doing the reading, keep engaged. While your work is out, keep in contact with them in case they have any questions. In case they need to ask, well, did you know that XYZ term is extremely negative? I lost my train of thought. And then later on, but that is part of the like character your writings thing. Like they're specifically using it for that reason. Like in Huck Finn, where they use a certain term multiple times in it because that's the time period that they're in and it's written in. That's what's going to be the term that is used. If you're writing in certain time periods, you're going to have certain language that is going to be used that may not be considered politically correct today, but would have been used back then. It all depends on what you're writing, and if you're. This is again with the being upfront about your themes. Your sensitivity reader might have a question about why do I keep seeing this phrase used a lot when it's a phrase that wouldn't be used in the modern day, but maybe your thing is happening in the 1960s and certain language is being used. Your sensitivity reader should go, oh, I see what they're getting at. What to expect when you are using a sensitivity reader. A good sensitivity reader will not only tell you that something you may have written is problematic, but they will also give you sources as to why. Let me move my face out of the way so you can read it. For example, if you're writing about an African American person and describing their skin tone as like milk chocolate or like another food item, which unfortunately happens a lot, a good sensitivity writer is going to flag that and give you links to sources like research papers that show why comparing African American people to food items is not a good idea. This one was an example that was brought up actually by someone I know in a writing group about something that happened when she was getting one of her novels she was working on read by beta readers. She didn't hire someone who was specifically a sensitivity reader. She just had a very wide pool of people who would beta read her stuff. And one of them did point that out and then also gave her links to why this was a bad thing. Apparently, they were a researcher of some kind of African American studies, and they had multiple research papers that they could reference for her. something like that is what you should be looking for. Is it going to be that is it going to be that uh, source dense every single time? No, but they should be able to say something better than, "Oh, this is bad. Why is it bad?" You're kind of paying them to read through and educate you on why it's bad so that you can fix what your writing is. That's what it amounts to, what a sensitivity reader amounts to. I can't click, I've got to change it on here. So, in conclusion, a sensitivity writer might not be needed depending on your writing. If you might feel like you don't need a sensitivity writer, I meant sensitivity reader. You might not feel like you need one. That is perfectly fine. It is all up to you. Do be aware, however, that there are a lot of controversies around certain books that have language and issues with characterization of certain minority groups that may end up coming back to bite you in the face. It does happen. American Dirt is an example. Let me see if I can find some more. If you're interested, I would suggest going to TV Tropes. There is I'm going to share this tab real quick. I'm on TV Tropes. Sorry, let me get this all spread out properly. I can't really see the edge of my... Okay, there we go. There we go. Sorry, I'm having to adjust real quick. So, specifically, the one I am looking at is called Overshadowed by by Controversy. This is what happens when, can you think of any books, movies, TV shows that, oh, you thought they were great, but now every time you think about them, it's because of something that happened. Let's go to the literature. And look, it's all divided out for you so you can see some of these. Now, not all of those are going to be something that could be helped by a sensitivity reader. But something like this Barbie tie-in book, Barbie, I Can Be a Computer Engineer, would have likely remained unknown outside the little girl demographic if it didn't attract so many complaints about being unintentionally sexist, especially when it came out during a big push to get more women into tech-related jobs. The book's plot revolves around Barbie accidentally ruining her sister's homework by installing a virus on her laptop, and she relies on her male coworkers to fix this problem. Even before that, Barbie mentioned the aforementioned men were responsible for the actual programming of the video game she was working on. If that had gone through a sensitivity reader, they likely would have raised up issues with everything that was said right there. And yeah, admittedly, a lot of things that are going beyond here are like people suddenly realizing, like with the Bulgaria, that there was criminal stuff in their background. It's kind of like finding out Ann Perry was convicted for murder, that kind of thing. But some of these are going to be things that could have been prevented if it had been taken through a sensitivity reader or 2 or 10. So yes, that is the basics of a sensitivity reader. Let's see if I've got any more slides. Actually, share this tab. Alright, that is the last tab. So you may not think that you need a sensitivity writer. If you have a large enough pool of beta readers, you might not need a sensitivity reader because you will already have people in that beta reading pool who will already be doing that job. You might not get as in-depth of a explanation as if you hired a person specifically for sensitivity reading or editing. But if you have a wide enough pool of beta readers, you're already going to have this covered. However, if you're trying to get traditionally published, be aware that some editors, agents, and publishing houses may require all works to go through various sensitivity readers before publication because they have been bitten by controversy so many times. It is becoming, I'm not going to say a standard, but it's becoming more common for editors and publishing houses to require this as an extra step in the editing process before a book goes to publication. There are controversies around using and not using sensitivity readers. Again, it all boils down to what you think is right for your writing. I like to compare it to if you're writing a historical, something in a historical setting, you're going to want people who already know that historical setting to be proofreading your book. You're going to want someone who knows, let's say you're doing a book that takes place in, 15th century Spain. You're going to want people who know what was going on in 15th century Spain to proofread your book to make sure you aren't missing something. Because nothing will get you called out faster online or in your reviews than you missing something like that. Like if you have potatoes in England before the Columbian Exchange, someone will mention it in the reviews. For those of you who don't know, potatoes, tomatoes, corn are all New World crops. They did not get to Europe after after Christopher Columbus and all of his thing, plus all the other ships going over. So every time in a medieval setting you see potatoes or tomatoes getting thrown at someone who's in the stockades, that's inaccurate, and you will get called out for it. It's the same thing like in a movie. If you have a tranquil looking pond scene and suddenly you hear, hang on, let me find that sound so you all can hear it. It's going through that. Come on. Sorry, it's taking a minute to go up. Gotta love all those advertising bits on YouTube. Come on. Alright, there we go. We're going to share this tab. You all should be able to hear this.
That's a loon.
So if you hear that sound in like a... Sometimes it's used in scary movies, stuff like that. I need to share this again. Okay. Screen share settings, sensitivity reader, sure. Alright, just so there's something going on in the background behind me. You're going to get called out for using that if it's not in the loon's natural habitat. In fact, I know several birders who they will watch a movie and they will make note of it and then go and complain about it afterwards. Or they will make jokes about it in birding Facebook groups and the like. So again, a lot of it is going to depend on what you are writing. If you are writing something that is a more controversial topic, and when I say controversial, I mean race relations, mental health, things like that. You're probably going to want multiple someones to read it just so they can catch you if you are using certain stereotypes that would just make the situation worse. Unless that is your intention. And if that is your intention, then like I said, it is up to you whether or not you want to use a sensitivity reader or not. So, as I said in conclusion, it all boils down to what you think is right for your writing. I hope I didn't confuse you. If anyone has any questions, please throw them in the chat or send them to me at cassie@clintonpl.lib.in.us. You can also check out our Google Classroom and put in the questions that way. If you need the link to the Google Classroom, it is on our Facebook page where whenever there is a writing club meeting, the link is also included in there. So that is it for tonight. Next month, we are going to be going over how to keep a writing habit going, which is not something I actually have. I write whenever I feel like it, and if I don't feel like it, I don't write. But I do have a lot of information about how to get a writing habit going if you would like to start a writing habit. So that will be our start next month. There is some stuff that we are trying to get done, are trying to get booked for next year. Cross our fingers and hope we get it. There's some people I'm in contact with. Next month, January, that is also when we do our big local author, not display, not meeting, local author event. Please come out and talk to them. Most of them are self-published, so if you are looking to self-publish a book yourself, they are going to be the people to talk to. I will do a reminder of that next month. It's usually towards the end of the month. In fact, I can look real quick and see what we have. I do believe it's at the end of the month. Yes, it's on the 26th of January from 6 to 7:30. I usually work on Mondays, so I will be there. We get all sorts of people who have books published coming. They usually have their books available for purchasing, and they are usually more than happy to talk about their process of how they get their books written and published. So that is a resource for anyone who is interested in getting their books published. So that is where we're going to end it for tonight. It's a little bit short, but there's not really much you can talk on this topic, or much you can say on this topic. It is kind of you have to make the decision yourself. It does help if you are writing from a perspective that you yourself don't have. But again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Just expect people to call you on it. Because there's always going to be people calling you on, oh, that's unrealistic. That would never happen. It happens. So you guys all have a nice evening. I'm going to put up our calendar one more time. So again, this is our calendar for the month. Remember, Saturday is our Saturday with Santa program. If you got any littles or young ones who want to get a picture taken with Santa or who want a free book, come on Saturday. There will also be cookies from Casey's. They usually bring out a decorating kit, which is usually icing and colored sugars and stuff like that. They're really good. And that is our lovely thing. I will leave you guys with that today. and have a nice evening.